Are you looking for a fun way to win up to 25 times your money this football and basketball season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select two or more players, pick more or less on their projections for a wide variety of stats, and place your entry. It's as easy as that. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Easy gameplay, quick withdrawals, and injury insurance on your picks are what makes Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Ready to test your skills? Join the PrizePicks community of more than 7 million players who have already signed up. Right now, PrizePicks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/bluewire and use code BLUEWIRE. That's code BLUEWIRE at prizepicks.com/bluewire for a first deposit match of up to $100. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
Hey, hello, all you sickos out there. It is Josh Bowe from Pod Maverick, one of your co-hosts, also editor over at MavsMoneyball.com, coming to you about 9:45 Texas time on a Friday night by myself. No co-host Kirk Henderson, as he once again needed another night off. Well deserved. He had quite the day, so we need to give Kirk as much rest as he can because, quite frankly, we don't really need him for this one. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know how long we're going to be talking tonight because I don't know what else there is to talk about. Mavericks lose 122-96 to the Houston Rockets in a game that had no Luka Doncic, no Kyrie Irving, no Derek Lively, no Josh Green, no Maxi Kleba. So this was penciled in as a loss before this game even tipped off. It was most likely going to be a blowout. It turned into a blowout sometime in the middle of the second quarter. And then in the third quarter, it was, a 30-plus point lead at certain points. And by then, we were graced with a fourth quarter that was entirely garbage time, which is an NBA treat for all of the sickos out here. And if you're on this podcast right now, if you are watching on a Saturday night, if you're stateside, if you're in the United States, if you're watching a Mavericks live show podcast recap on a Saturday night after the Mavericks lose a stinker with none of the stars playing, you are a certified sicko. So I appreciate y'all, whoever's here, joining me tonight. I apologize if this show is brief or not very good because, quite frankly, there's just not much to go on right now because this was this was a scheduled loss once the Mavericks decided Luka Doncic was not going to play with a quad injury. So first off, we don't know right now if Luka is playing tomorrow night, Saturday night, against the San Antonio Spurs. Jason Kidd, in his pregame media session, basically punted that question when someone asked, is Luka going to play? So we still don't know if this is a legit injury that's going to keep Luka out for multiple games or if they just needed something to put down on the injury report so they didn't have to say that he was out with rest, because the NBA does not like it when stars have rest next to them on the injury report when they did not play. So we'll see. We don't have any more updates there. I apologize. My live camera will probably go on and off because I have a crappy USB camera from Amazon from a brand I don't even know, that I ordered during the pandemic when all webcams were basically sold out for months because everyone needed a webcam to work from home. So mine randomly goes in and out. So I apologize. I'll try to keep track of that as I'm clicking around on tabs and box scores and trying to do this live podcast. So yeah, so we don't know when Luka's coming back. We know for sure that Kyrie, Josh Green, Maxi Kleba, and Derek Lively are not going to play tomorrow because last time Kid talked about those guys before the Clippers game, he said there's no timetable for them to return. So don't expect those guys back anytime soon. But Luka, I would expect back tomorrow, but we'll see. So this game, um, I feel like to talk about this game, we can't talk about the result. Like it's a crappy game, but if you're a Mavs fan, if you're legitimately distressed about losing a game like this, just kind of take a pause, stop and think about the conditions. Just about no NBA team is going to win a game when your top four players are out, especially against a team like Houston, which is a winning team. They were 13 and 12 entering this game. They're 12 and 2 at home. So you're on the road against a team that's good at home, a winning record, and you're missing basically your entire, rotation besides, maybe two or three guys. So um not a lot of NBA teams. The Milwaukee Bucks are going to lose a game if they're playing against the Rockets on the road without Giannis, without Brooke Lopez, without Chris Middleton, and without Dame. So, this isn't an alarming result, but we can definitely talk about maybe some of the micro things, of course. And I feel like we should start with the good because obviously there wasn't a lot of it. So let's start with it and let's at least talk about that. The end of the bench, the guys that played garbage time were great. Obviously it's garbage time, and I think there's a caveat that we have to make. The starters did not play well. They played very, very poorly. And you look at how the way the end of the bench guys played, the garbage time guys, and you're like, well, why didn't the starters play like that? You know, let's reset and realize that the garbage time guys were playing against Nate Hitton, Aaron Holiday, Jake Londale, the end of the rock. It was garbage time. If Tim Hardaway Jr. and Grant Williams and Jaden Hardy, maybe got more burned in the fourth, they probably would have turned their games around a little bit. But hey, it's garbage time. What are you gonna do? And the guys that the Mavericks play, they can't dictate who they're playing against. They just have to play hard when they get their minutes, and they did. So obviously, the three standouts to me were Omax Prosper, 20 points, career high, first 20-point game. AJ Lawson had 8 points. Not a big statistical night, but I thought his energy and effort was really commendable, especially since he did get minutes before garbage time, before the fourth quarter. He had 3 steals. I thought he was pretty active. He felt like one of the few active defenders on the floor. And then Dexter Dennis, of course, the 2 league player, had 18 points in 17 minutes, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, like true summer league type game from him. It was awesome. And, really those guys didn't do anything special in terms of, skill set. It's not like they hit a bunch of threes when they're not normally 3-point shooters. They just played hard and ran the floor. They rebounded. They tried to defend as well as they could. They got out in transition. They attacked the rim. And that's really all you can ask for from these guys. I don't know how much Dennis you can translate into games that are meaningful. He is a two-way player, but it's just nice to see these moments, and maybe it's something that they could build off of. I think what these guys have earned at least is if there's another situation like this in the future, hey, maybe it's tomorrow night against the Spurs. If Luka's not playing, we're basically going to get this same rotation again. Play Dennis 30 minutes. Play Lawson 30 minutes. Play Omax 30 minutes. Again, he played 30 minutes, but Lawson was at 23 minutes. Dennis was at 17. Let's just see those guys play. If this is what it's going to look like with the starters when Luka's not out, I would rather see these guys, these younger prospects that seem to, want to bust their ass to try to get minutes. Like, if the team's going to lose, I'd rather see them go down swinging with seeing if you could learn a bit more about some of these guys at the end of your bench than, seeing Tim Hart. Like, I don't think anyone needs to see Tim Hardaway Jr. jack up 20 shots in 26 minutes and miss 14 of them. He was 6 of 20 from the floor. Let's just play out. If you're gonna punt a game, not necessarily punt, but if your injuries are gonna force you to kind of forfeit some of these games, why not let some of these younger guys get some more burn and let them go if you're gonna lose the game anyway. So that's just my thinking. So I really like what Dennis did and Lawson did and Prosper. Holmes, of course, was also another standout, but he's kind of, if anyone's watched Holmes over the course of his career, he's kind of been a garbage time king. Um, from his time in Philly, and even his one season where he played a lot in Sacramento. So that's not super surprising that he looked pretty productive against the other teams under the bench guys. I think his night, at least, you probably wonder why is he the third big? Why was he the third big tonight? Markeith Morris started, and then Dwight Powell was the first big off the bench, and those two did a whole lot of nothing. They combined for 4 points in 20 minutes, 6 rebounds, no blocks, no steals. So I'm not the biggest Holmes guy. I don't know if he should be a mainstay in the rotation, but in a night like, again, if they're going to be playing these games super shorthanded, I'm a little confused why he didn't really get into the game until the game was well over. So that's another thing that I would change. So again, like what I saw from Omax, specifically because he's probably a guy that has an opportunity to see rotation minutes when things normalize a little bit. Obviously, Dennis is going to be much more of a spot guy with injuries, but Omax just kind of did the stuff that we, kind of thought he would do. He attacked the rim pretty well. His jumper wasn't great. He was 1 of 4 from 3, and again, he made 6 shots, missed 17 of them, but he got the free throw line 9 times, and he was really around the basket a lot, either presenting himself in the kind of the dunker spot for anyone that drove, or cutting, or slashing and attacking closeouts. And then scoring in transition. He had a beautiful coast to coast, grabbing the rebound and going all the way to score. And I think that's always been the thing that pops out to me for him when I was watching, college tape, when I was talking to people that watched way more of him in college than I did, watching him in summer league. The thing that I think differentiates him from your standard 3-and-D kind of wing prospect is his ability to want to put his head down and get to the rim and have a nose for the rim. And normally these guys, these archetype of players, you want them to put the ball on the floor. And obviously, Omax is a rookie. You want him to put the ball on the floor, but he's got some skill there in terms of get a knack of getting to the basket. Again, not a guy that's going to see him running pick and rolls, but doing straight line drives, attacking off a closeout is a very useful skill in today's NBA, as more and more teams are kind of running these 3-and-D specialists off the line. You need to be able to have something when someone closes out hard on you and takes away your open spot up 3. And I've always felt Prosper has a little bit of that compared to, like you look at, Dorian Finney-Smith obviously turned himself into a really high quality NBA starter. But when you look at him, when Dorian was maybe his first year or so in the league, he had none of this. He had none of this penchant for scoring or being around the basket or getting to the basket that Omax has. So I feel like that gives them a little bit of a head start development wise compared to maybe some of the 3-and-D wings the Mavericks have had in the past. So that's exciting. I'd like to see more of that. And again, even if Luka does play tomorrow, it would still be fun to see a lot of Omax minutes if possible, because it's fun. It's fun to watch the young guys do stuff. If you're already playing a game like this where the cards are stacked against you because of injuries and you're probably going to lose anyway, again, would like to see the young guys get some run. So this is going to be a shorter podcast, so we're only 13 minutes in. So I'm going to go ahead and do the spiel, where if you are listening right now on the live stream, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It really helps a lot, especially with our issue with Apple Podcasts. The more we can get out of YouTube, the better for us. I'll just say it, better for us financially. Apple Podcasts is kind of a big cash cow for us, because obviously it's like the most listened to podcast platform, because everyone in the universe, or at least everyone in America, has an iPhone. So pretty much everyone listens to their podcasts through Apple. So we're struggling with that right now. We're trying to get it fixed with our Apple feed. So if you want to help us out a lot, liking and subscribing on YouTube is a big boon. If you're listening to the audio only feed, please subscribe to that feed as well. If you're unable to do it on Apple because of the issues we have, YouTube Music, Spotify, Google Podcasts, those services I believe are still working as well. So For the audio, for the live show, we are going to take a quick break so we can fit in an ad break. Those of you listening to the audio only version of the show, you'll get a little ad break. Those of you watching live on YouTube, we're just going to take a little break. We're going to chill for a couple seconds, get that ad break in, and then we will be right back, and we will talk about the rest of the Mavericks blowout loss to Houston, again losing 122-96. We'll be right back.
This episode is presented to you by NFL Sunday Ticket, now on YouTube and YouTube TV. With NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube and YouTube TV, you can watch your favorite teams' out-of-market Sunday games, plus watch up to 4 games at once with Multiview. Don't miss the race to the playoffs. NFL Sunday Ticket is now just $39 when bundled with YouTube TV, where you get even more football. Visit youtube.com/Spotify offer to sign up now. Lowest price on YouTube TV with base plan. Rest of 2023 season. Terms and embargoes apply. No cancellations.
Okay, we're back. Kind of talked about the good stuff in the first half of the podcast. The end of the bench guys who played really well: AJ Lawson, Max Prosper, Dexter Dennis, Rashawn Holmes. I even liked a little bit of what Greg Brown did. I know he only scored 3 points and missed all of his shots, but he had 5 rebounds in 12 minutes. He has some athleticism that's fun. He's another guy, like, I wouldn't mind seeing them throw him out there for like 20 minutes if it's going to be a non-competitive game like it was tonight. So that was another one that kind of caught my eye. So unfortunately, probably need to talk about some of the bad. I don't think this is a time to really crucify a lot of guys on the roster because, again, the Mavericks roster is still one made up of a team that requires its stars to function. The team does not have a lot of guys that can do a lot with the ball in their hands when Luka is not on the floor, or even Kyrie Irving as well. But still, you would like your veterans to do just a little more. Tim Hardaway Jr., Jaden Hardy combined to shoot, if I'm doing my math right, 9 of 37, 24 points. Like, oof. Hardaway 6 of 20, 2 of 8 from 3. Hardy was 3 of 17, 2 of 12 from 3. That's bad, and especially when those are your somewhat proven scorers on a roster that's missing Kyrie and missing Luka. You just want a little bit more. But it's tough because Houston is one of the best defenses in the league. They were fully healthy. I mean, their starting lineup: Jabari Smith, Dylan Brooks, Fred VanVleet. There's good defenders up and down the starting lineup. So it was going to be tough because those guys really need open spot up looks from Luka to do what they do. But still, having said that, that was bad. Jaden Hardy, once again, cannot finish inside the rim. He is a second-year player, so I'm not going to be too hard on him. I think a lot of Mavs fandom is kind of out on him. And to be honest, he has played himself out of the rotation, I think, when things were normal. But again, he is a second-year player, and he was the 37th pick in the draft. So you're talking about a second-round pick in his second year. There has to be, some wiggle room here, in that I don't think you can hop all the way off the Jaden Hardy train right now. But clearly, this was not a good performance from him. That's not great. Hardaway, what are you going to say? He's a gunner when Luka. I mean, he's a gunner all the time. But when Luka or Kyrie are on the floor, it kind of stabilizes his shot selection. But when he is the guy that has the ultimate green light and there's no one else to stop him, I mean, this is kind of what it looked like when he was in New York for both of those stints. Not really much more to say for him. I think the big one that a lot of people are disappointed in is Grant Williams. 0 points, 0 of 5 from the floor, 0 of 3 from 3, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, a block. Didn't have a great game against the Clippers, but did enough in the box score, 9 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, a block, to kind of contribute a little bit there. He's in a bad way. In the month of December, he's averaging right around 9 points on 30% shooting from 3, about 38% from the floor. He has been in double single-digit points now for 5 straight games. Has only been in double figures twice in December. If you take that back to his November 18th game against the Milwaukee Bucks, he scored 14 points on 11 shots. Since then, he has played in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 12 games since he played November 18th against the Bucks. He's only been double figures for 2 of them. So 10 out of those 12 games, he's been in single digits. He hasn't shot the ball well at all. He's been um, one 3-pointer or less in those games that he's been in single digits. So 10 out of 12, only one 3-pointer made or less. His defense is inconsistent at best. He seems to still do okay when he's guarding a big guy in the paint for his size, but his off-ball defense has not been good. His perimeter defense has not been good. He has not been able to help contain any dribble penetration. Guys are driving right by him, and he's lost his man off the ball probably way too much in the half court. So not great. But at the end of the day, he's still, his season averages. I know no one really is going to care about this right now because it's kind of what have you done for me lately? He's at about 10 points, 4 rebounds on 39% shooting from three. And for a starter on a team with a winning record, I'll be honest, that's kind of what I expected from him before the season started. I think expectations were a little out of whack and they need to be reset. I think when the move that got him to Dallas, I think there was a lot of excitement because it's just, hey, a new young player that can start, a new starter. It's exciting for a Mavericks team that is kind of shuffled through the same 4 or 5 starters next to Luka for the better part of the last 3 to 4 years. So the idea that they got some fresh blood, a 24-year-old forward that started in big playoff games for the Celtics, had big shots, guarded Giannis in a game 7 very well. It's pretty exciting. And I think some people thought he was like going to legitimately be that third best player next to Luka and Kyrie. And when the acquisition happened, I tried to write, look, he's a great acquisition for this price. Even the way he's playing now, his contract is not that bad. He's 24, about to turn 25 years old. He can hit three. He's been a good shooter outside of the Mavericks Luka ecosystem, which is always a plus for me. But look, he's not much more than, the Dorians and the Reggie Bullocks that he's replacing. He is a guy that requires most of his offense to be created for him. He was 79% of his field goals were assisted last season with the Celtics. He was mostly a spot-up guy, did not pick and pop, did not cut, did not get a ton of offensive rebounds, did not drive, did not score in the paint a lot. Which, hey, that's what Dorian and Reggie and some of these other 3-and-D wings the Mavericks have had for a while. So again, it's not that surprising. The thing that's probably the most surprising to me is I think his defense has been a little worse than expected. The Mavericks are still overall a bad defensive team. You would think Grant, I think his reputation might have outstretched what he actually brings on the floor defensively because he's had those monster playoff games. I mean, when you hold Giannis to a crappy shooting night and a game 7 and your team wins, I think that goes a long way towards your defensive reputation. And, I had a follower point out to me on Twitter that maybe he considers himself more of a 16-game player than an 82-game player, which, for those of you 16-game player, like a playoff guy instead of a regular season guy, maybe that is. Maybe he'll rise to the occasion in the playoffs when they get there. But we'll see. To me, I understand that there's some frustration with his performance, but his performance is just not that much more out of line than what I expected. Now, the caveat to that is if this slump continues, if we are in the middle of January, if we are in the middle of February, and Grant is at 8 points per game, shooting like 37% from three, then that's a problem. Then we are going to you have to get talked into this has been a disappointing season and things like that. And I tried to, when I wrote that piece, I pointed out the things about his offensive game, which is not that dissimilar. And also, last season with the Celtics did not end well for him. He got benched toward the end of the season, did not play a bunch in the playoffs. And, there was a lot of talk from Boston media about what that was about. Did he lose faith from Coach Joe Mazzulla? His defense, the Celtics defense was worse with him on the court in the playoffs last season than when it was with him on. I think some Boston players like Tatum and Brown, I think publicly supported him despite the fact that he was getting benched. But there was some weirdness in Boston last season. And then the hope was if you're a glass half full, is that maybe just being in a new environment, new team, new city, playing with Luka, that maybe some of that weirdness would not carry over. But I mean, chemistry wise, I don't think there's anything weird. Boston had weird chemistry issues last season. I'm not seeing that with the Mavericks right now, but clearly there's just something off with Grant, and he needs to pull himself out of it. And I think, excuse me, I think he has earned the benefit of the doubt to pull himself out of the slump. Again, we're not even to Christmas. I don't think these last 12 games erase the first 7 or 10 games he played. I feel like everyone's kind of judging him for these last 10 and forgetting about how good he was in the first 7. If you're asking me which stretch of games is more indicative of the player he is, I would say neither. I would say he's probably in between what he's shown. He's not as good as those first 7 games, but I don't think he's as bad as these last 12. So we'll have to see, but it is disappointing in a game like this that he just didn't rise to the occasion, didn't look like one of the veterans. And when a guy like Dexter Dennis can come off, two-way guy, and just kind of blow his production out of the water, and this is a guy you're counting on to be a core starter for your team, yeah, it's time to ask some questions. I totally get it. But for me, I'm just not there totally yet. I think he's earned the benefit of the doubt to climb his way out of this hole that he's in. But there's no doubt that he's in a major slump. So we'll see. Otherwise, not much to talk about. Can't really kill this team for this game with the way the roster is shaked out. Hopefully, Luka can play tomorrow against the San Antonio Spurs. So we'll see from there. The Mavericks standings wise, they're 16-12. This is not a great time to have a bunch of injuries. The Mavericks are now 7th in the West. The Pelicans just jumped ahead of them. They're 17-12. The Rockets are now right behind the Mavericks at 14-12. But some of the other teams in the West are like Suns, Lakers, Warriors. There's some teams that are going through some issues right now. So I don't know if I would worry about the Mavericks falling out of the 10th, the play-in spot with these injuries. But, let's see if they can hold down the fort a little bit. Point differential, they are now 9th in the West in point differential. Doesn't help when you have these games without Luka and without all these players. But we'll see. The schedule's not getting any easier. They get a break. I mean, they have to play a back-to-back tomorrow. But they're going to be playing some pretty decent or at least competitive teams. They're not going to get a ton more games against, the bottom of the conference for the next week or so. So the Mavericks need to get healthy and they need to get right quick because the West is so bunched up right now that they could drop in the standings even further if they can't figure a way to get this figured out and get healthy. So I think that's going to do it for me. 26 minutes on a game like this on a Friday night feels like a lot. So I appreciate you guys watching. Sorry, when I'm by myself, it's hard for me to kind of talk and look at the comment section and answer questions. So I'm sorry I couldn't really get to answer questions. And we're not going to do a live show because I need to go to bed. We're not going to do a fan show. But we'll maybe do one tomorrow because Kirk, I think, might be back tomorrow. So we'll see. So again, I appreciate everyone tuning in. You've listened to me babble on 2 nights in a row, so I really appreciate it. Talking by yourself is not a lot of fun, and but hey, I have a good time with you guys. It's really fun. I mean, there's 69 of you guys watching right now. That's really cool. That's way more than there needs to be on a Friday night after this game. So you guys are awesome. I really love our community, love our fan base. I think we're building something pretty cool here. So you guys are the best. Thank you. This is Pod Maverick After Dark. Mavericks again get thumped by the Houston Rockets 122-96. We will be back, hopefully full show tomorrow night after the Mavericks play against the San Antonio Spurs. We will talk to you guys then. Take it easy. Happy holidays.